Suge just ducked his head, and the first bullet went in his head, so the next ones hit him. It was like he was doing a breakdance trying to jump in the back seat or something.
You've all already heard the news that Keefe D was arrested. Let us, in this video, talk about who Keefe D is and how he is connected to Tupac's murder, and why Puff Daddy should be afraid for his future. After all, according to the words of the protagonist of our video, Tupac's murder is also partly because of the founder of Bad Boy Records. Everything that will be said next is quoted from Keefe D's interview and autobiography. Generally speaking, Keefe D, whose real name is Dwayne Davis, is a member of the Southside Compton Crips gang, which was involved in drug dealing. In the early 90s, he got to know a gangster called Eric Von Zip Martin who was from the East Coast. People in his circle just called him Zip. Actually, it was Zip himself who introduced him to Sean Puffy Combs. Zip and Puffy were very close friends at that time. For Keefe D, Puffy was just a regular guy who was just starting out with his business. However, nowadays he hates him and genuinely regrets ever meeting the guy he calls a bastard. After meeting for the first time, Puffy and Keefe D reconnected with one another after a couple of months regarding renting a car for the artist Usher for the music video Can You Get With It. Puff paid Keefe $2,400 for the car. In the summer of '95, Zip came through the neighborhood and invited Keefe D to a party hosted by Puff, calling it the Beat Summer Jam. Suge Knight was at the party, and according to Keefe's opinion, Suge was already jealous of Puffy because of how well things were going for him at the time. Suge asked him where he knows them from, and he said, just like everyone else, from drug dealing. After that, the most epic Source Awards event took place, where Suge said,
"Any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, and don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the records, dancing, come to Death Row."
These words completely destroyed the friendly relationship between Bad Boy Records and Death Row Records. However, the most intense shit happened on the 23rd of September 1995 at a party in Atlanta between the two enemy labels. Suge Knight confronted Puff Daddy and used physical power against him. Keith Murray said that Puff received a powerful slap from Suge.
And then Suge was like, "Yo, you all right?" And Puffy was there. And then all of a sudden I saw Suge. Pow! Smacked the dog shit out of Puffy.
And here is Reggie Wright Jr. saying that it wasn't that dramatic.
But he did grab him by his collar and was blaming Puffy that night.
And anyway, this fight led to the murder of Suge Knight's close friend, Big Jake.
He was a good friend of him. He was a very good friend. You see them together often, and I think Suge trusted him a lot.
It's difficult to say who committed the murder. However, at the time, the entire mass media said that it was someone from Bad Boy Records' side. After this event, Puff called Zep, who asked him to put Keefe D on the line, and then told him, "Your boy, Big CEO, he's tripping." Naturally, these words were aimed at Suge Knight. Keefe D said that Puff was so scared that he hired ex-Navy SEALs wearing earpieces like they worked for the CIA in the hotel room right next to his suite.
And I'm scared of the big boy. I mean, you know, he didn't say it in that type of words, but we went to the concert, it was in San Diego, and this nigga had fucking Navy SEALs in the next room. They looked like the FBI with earpieces and everything.
Then there was the meeting between Zip and Puff at a strip club. They were later joined by Keefe D himself. From there was the proposal that he would receive $1 million for the murder of Suge and Pac.
Even if he wasn't serious about it, but he did say that around.
It was floating in there. I'll just say that.
Plus, Puffy trying to see me weak, hearts I rip. Biggie Smalls and Junior Mafia, some mark-ass bitches.
This diss track from Tupac really pissed Puff Daddy off. In turn, Keefe D saw Pac a few times, and he appeared like a good guy to him. However, a little later, during one of the concerts, Tupac had to explain himself for the lines he read from the song California Love.
Worldwide, let 'em recognize from Long Beach to Rosecrans.
Some Southsiders were up at the House of Blues on Sunset, and they ran into Tupac. He was up there with Big Syke from the Outlaws. One of the members of the gang went up and grabbed Tupac by the collar and pushed him against a wall and said, "Man, you know what that Long Beach and Rosecrans stand for?" Later came the moment which led to Tupac later attacking Orlando Anderson. One of Keefe D's friends, called Victor, was one of the main high school footballers who was heading to college. And so, Keefe told him they want to give him a proper send-off before he leaves. While Victor was at the mall, he ran into 3 Pyrus gang members who were down with Death Row's crew. People from the Pyrus gang were beating up Victor at the mall. That same time, people from the Southsiders gang entered the mall. They didn't know that Victor is a member of the gang. When Victor saw that his allies had entered the mall, he told the people beating him up that now the real battle begins. Victor knocked out one of them and grabbed the Death Row Records chain. The trip to the store had to be canceled. That fight changed the rap game once and for all. On the 7th of September 1996, Keefe D and his guys attended the Mike Tyson match, just as Tupac and his own guys were at the game. After the match, they headed to the pre-arranged meeting place where they waited for about 15 minutes. Little by little, everybody started showing up except for his nephew. Next, Keefe D was told that someone had attacked his nephew. They came to find out later, the same dude from the Lakewood Mall that got his chain snatched was walking with Tupac when they saw Baby Lane in the lobby of the MGM. They rushed up out of the cafe and went to find Baby Lane, who was actually Orlando Anderson. They saw him inside the MGM minutes after they had jumped him. By the time they got there, Suge, Pac, and their crew had already left. Baby Lane's shoulder was a little messed up, but other than that, he was alright. When Keefe D asked him what happened, he said, "Death Row guys rushed me. One of them guys from the Lakewood Mall was running with the boy that started that shit." He couldn't let that go. For him, it was seriously humiliating that some guys from the music industry had beaten up his nephew. What's more is that Puff had already asked for help, and that Suge had absolutely not appreciated the help that he had received in founding the label. So, they decided to take revenge. They knew that Suge and Pac were heading down the 662. While they were waiting for the valet to bring out their cars, Zip seized the opportunity and called Keefe D over to his Benz. As he walked up to the driver's side window, he noticed that Foxy Brown was in the car with Zip. So, Zip instructed her to step out of the car and motioned for him to jump in. Zip had a hidden compartment that he opened up, reached in, and pulled a black 40 Glock out. He turned to Keefe and said, "It's time to get the money." Keefe D hopped out of the car, held the door open for Foxy Brown to get back in, closed the door, and they pulled off. At the beginning, him and his guys waited for them for an hour and a half. However, no one showed up, and Keefe D said that it was time to head out. Their next destination was the Carriage House, a Las Vegas hotel where they had rented a few rooms as a kickback spot. On the way to the Carriage House, they stopped by the liquor barn to buy some bottles of Dom Perignon Rosé, and Cristal. As they were driving to the liquor barn, it became evident that the guys in the van with Davis were worried that Suge would get some of his police hitmen to come back and try to kill them if they went after them. It really pissed off Keefe, because why would they start it all if they were actually afraid? And so, he sat in the other guy's white Cadillac so he can go chill. He pulled out the Glock that Zip had given him and tossed it in the back seat. Bubble Up did the driving. Baby Lane and Freaky were riding in the back. A few blocks down, they were sitting at the light. And guess who they saw? The Death Row Caravan hit the corner with Tupac hanging out of the window of a black luxury BMW waving to his fans. If Pac hadn't been hanging out of the car, they would have never seen him. As they sat in traffic, they slowly rolled past the long line of luxury cars they had in their caravan, looking into each one until they pulled up to the front vehicle and found who they were seeking. Like two rams locking horns, Suge and Keefe D looked each other dead in the eye, their eyes locked. The terrified expression on Suge's face read, "Damn, it's them." Pac pulled out a strap, and that's when the fireworks started. One of Davis's guys from the backseat grabbed the Glock and started busting back. The first shot skinned Suge in his head. Keefe D heard stories claiming that Suge actually hid behind Tupac, but they're not true, and Suge was the first to get injured. After this incident, they hung out as if nothing had happened. They left the Cadillac and the gun was hidden in one of the wheels of the car. The next day, they came back to get the car and the gun was gone. Greg Kading, who was investigating the murder, said that after the shootout, Puff called Keefe D.
And Keefe D, I'm sorry, Puffy asked him, man, was that us? Was it, what just happened out there? Keefe D's like, yeah, that's us.
But the most interesting part is that there is some information going around saying that Puff had paid Zip $1 million to kill Pac, but that the money was never shared with Keefe D.
If he gave the money, Puffy will be in prison now, money for hire.
The FBI said it was just Zip.
So the FBI told you the
They said he
same
was a
thing?
dirty motherfucker, yeah.
So the FBI told you that Zip kept that money as well?
They said Zip's a dirty motherfucker. Everybody crossed you.
Now, it was this documentary that claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother.
It's also worth saying that he confessed that Suge paid $60,000 to his nephew so that Orlando can testify in court that Suge didn't attack him. However, that didn't help the boss of Death Row Records one bit, and Suge was sentenced to 9 years behind bars. What do you think about this situation? What awaits Keefe D and Puff Daddy? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe to the channel, and see you soon.